Hello, friends. I'm Dr. Pooja Kapoor, consultant pediatric neurologist, Paras Hospital, Gurgaon, director and co-founder Continua Kids. So, the topic of today's discussion is the basics of ABA, that means Applied Behavioral Analysis. So, I'm not an expert ABA person. I'm a pediatric neurologist, but I know the basics of ABA because I run center called Continua Kid, and through that I have a team who do ABA therapy for our children who have autism spectrum disorder or other behavioral concern. So, ABA is a scientific therapy. It's a science-based therapy in which they let change the behavior through analysis of it and through strategies of it. So, how does it work? What is the baseline for ABA? How does it function? So, it functions on the principle of A, B, and C. So, what they believe that whatsoever behavior a child does or whatever he do, it is it has something to do with the antecedent incidents which happens. So that means whatever behavior the child is showing, it is the consequence of the previous thing of whatever happened, the incidents which happened before the child showed that behavior. And that is, A is antecedent, B is the behavior which the child shows or the person shows, and C is the consequence. So, whether the child would do the same behavior for that antecedent incidents will depend upon what the consequence you are providing. And the consequence would be either you give positive reinforcement to that behavior. If the child does good behavior, you give positive reinforcement. So that get drilled into the mind that, okay, so if I will do this behavior, I will get this as a consequence, some positive thing. And if you don't want that behavior to happen, then you go for negative reinforcement. Okay. So today I will talk about what reinforcement is, because as you can see, whatever the type of behavior you want to modify in the child depends a lot on your reinforcement or your consequence. So whatever you want as a consequence to be to further increase the behavior, good behavior of the child would depend on how you tackle the child after he does that behavior. Okay, for example, if you said no to video game, the child was playing video game, you took that off and you said no, you are not going to play video game anymore. So the behavior would be he would show a temper tantrum. He will just lie down, he will shout, he will shriek, he will pull his hair, maybe whatever he does. So, and then what you will do, if you will just ignore that behavior and walk out from that room, so the child would understand that in spite of my showing this temper tantrum, in spite of me showing this tantrum of because my mother said no, but this tantrum is not affecting my mother at all. So it is not affecting any of her things. She just left the room or she's just sitting like that without giving any reaction to it. So that will instill in his mind that this type of tantrum is useless for me. So from now onwards, I'm not going to do that, because even if I do that, the mother at all is not affected. So the consequence will lead to what kind of behavior the child next would do. Okay. So today we are going to talk about all the reinforcement, which is very, very small but very important type how to instill a behavior. So I'm going to have this as a series, and with preceding next weeks, we'll talk about ABA, and ABA, more details of ABA. And today's the lecture is on reinforcement. So that was an example. Now, The reinforcement, a lot of people think that you are making my child learn a very conditioned way, that the trainer is sitting on this side of the table, the child is sitting on that side of the table, and if my child will give me a correct answer, I will just take a small bit piece of chips and I'll feed that child. So in that way, you are making, my child a robot, and we are doing a robotic learning. So all those who believe this is the case, no. Just get into the process of it, that if you do certain work, good work, you want some appreciation for that. You need something to tell you, okay, yeah, you did good work, and you feel so good about yourself, and then you want to do that work again. Just take it to your mind that if you made some good, you did a good cooking, and and then if everybody appreciated, you feel good about that, and you will try more, and maybe you'll try more and more, and maybe you become a very famous and a seasoned cook, depending on how much appreciation you get. So take it that way. So in ABS sessions, the positive reinforcement could be anything in response to the good behavior which the child shows. So the basis is this, that you have to appreciate it. So a reinforcer could be anything. It could be a small piece of a chips, small piece of a biscuit, small piece of any eatable, maybe popcorn, and that reinforcer may be different for a different person. So for a child who likes popcorn, maybe that reinforcer is popcorn, but for a child who does not like popcorn, popcorn will not act as a reinforcer. Maybe a small kiss on the cheek, maybe a high five, maybe a small walk, maybe a small toy, maybe a small thing that I'll let you do, watch the Xbox, or do video game, play the video game for 5 minutes, or maybe a small tattoo, small anything, a star on the hand. So it could be anything by which the child feel, yes, good. So the thing is, to talk about the reinforcer, you first have to think about what are the reinforcers which I can use in my child. So before you start with the reinforcement activity, you have to sit with a think about the child, that whatever he likes the most, and that is also doable also. You will write down, okay, this is good for my child, this he likes, this I can act as a reinforcer, and this I can act as a, you can just tick it off. Okay. So once you make a list of it, so once he start with a good activity, suppose you are making him learn some type of thing, and he answered in a correct way. The moment he answered in a correct way, you have to give that enforcer within that second, because reinforcement has to be collaborated with that activity of his, so that he builds in that relationship, that because I answered it rightly, this answer, and because of that I got this as a reinforcer, or as a thing that, okay, I did it. You cannot delay the reinforcer. Suppose he answered that, then you give the reinforcer after 10 minutes, he would not have any correlation with the reinforcer. Why I got this. Also, whatsoever reinforcer you are using, make sure that you do not, that reinforcer should not be accessible to the child uh, at every moment. Suppose you are giving popcorn as a reinforcer, but then while he is not doing any activity, if you serve him with popcorn, that will be diluted. He won't understand that, okay, I've been giving popcorn for no reason also, and I've been giving popcorn for giving the right answer. So that means that does not carry any importance to him. So make sure that the reinforcer, whatever you have planned, should not be given in general to the child. Now, also build up a hierarchy of the reinforcer. Matlab, that means, so if you do very small activity, for small activity, a easy reinforcer, maybe a high five. Whereas for the activity which he has done, suppose it's like a big activity and it is a activity which is at the last of it, that make sure that the very strong reinforcer is to be given. A lot of our children are really like crazy for mobiles and all, so maybe after the activity, the biggest activity or the last of the activity finishes, keep the strongest of the reinforcer at the end. So you understand that after everything will finish, after the session will finish for 2 hours, I will get this as a reinforcer. Always make sure that these reinforcers are not bribes. So I'm not bribing the child to do this activity. So don't show that reinforcer in between. Okay, if you will do this, I will give this. No, no, no. Then that is a bribe. Because you are telling the person, अगर तुमने ये काम किया, if you will do this, then this is I am going. No, this you should not do it. You have to act it like you keep the reinforcers by your side, the child does that, and in that very momentum, it has to be in that momentum that you feed the child with whatever the reinforcers is, maybe a popcorn. So you put up the activity, okay, tell me where is the apple, and he put the finger apple. So the moment he puts the finger the right answer on the right answer, you reinforce him with a popcorn, piece of popcorn. So he understood that, okay, so because I said right answer and this is the right answer, I got this. Okay. And for no right answer, if the child, suppose this is apple, banana, and pomegranate, and you ask for where is apple, and he points on the pomegranate, don't give him the reinforcer. Okay. So by that, he understands that, okay, something is wrong. Why I'm not getting this? So the moment then you put the point, okay, tell him, okay, so this is the apple. The moment he will point towards the apple, you feed him with a reinforcer. That way the memory is attached that this is apple. As soon as I answer the right thing, I get a reinforcer or a popcorn or whatever it is. Maybe sometimes the reinforcer could be just a small activity. Sometimes you're telling them apple, 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 this is apple, and but he's not understanding. So after a while of teaching, just make him do some activity of his, maybe a small ball and catch and throw game, then bring him back to the desk, and then teach him. The moment he puts it to the right answer by even prompting, so you prompt him, okay, middle, apple, apple. Don't point him to the finger or take his finger, but just a small pointer. And if he points it, I'm also going to take a session on pointing, because that also is a very important part of prompting, because that also is a very important part in ABA. So right now I will just tell you that you can prompt and then you can indicate, okay, this is apple. And if he tells you after a while this is apple, then also you can give that reinforcer. Okay. So reinforcement is not equivalent to bribe. Reinforcement is not equivalent to a robotic learning. Reinforcement is not only food, it could be anything, whatever your child or that person likes. So these are all the myths which are associated with reinforcement in ABA therapy. Okay. And I think that's all. I think I've covered all the points for the reinforcement. Let me just check my notes. And no, I have to add more also to it. Uh, Okay, so yes, I have left again 2 points on that it should also be added with something, like suppose you in an ABA session, you are putting a popcorn to that, but make sure that after you give that popcorn, say, well done, well done. Why I'm saying why to add well done, because once the child goes to the school or somewhere where you cannot feed that popcorn in an environment, it's not an environment where you can feed the popcorn. So the child should have a very good memory of well done, along with, first you start with another reinforcer, but verbal, or what you called as a secondary reinforcer, also has to be added, so that whenever there's not an environment where you cannot feed the child with anything, you have a verbal thing, because verbal thing you can have anywhere in the school also, or anywhere around wherever you are teaching the child. So once you have that memory of, you feed a popcorn and you do well done, so he has that, okay, I did well, and because of that I this is a good thing I've done, and this is how I will learn the next thing. Okay, so a secondary reinforcer in the form of verbal reinforcer also has to be added. Also, make sure that whenever you are adding the verbal reinforcer, make sure that it is also a bit of descriptive. So a non-descriptive type of reinforcer like only well done would not make any sense at times. Suppose he pointed towards that so object, so you will say, okay, well done, you pointed, very good. Similarly, what you can do is like, suppose he was making a circle, or maybe once you said sit down, he sat down, so you will say, well done, you sat down well. So he knows that this I got it because I sat down, this I got it because I pointed, this I got it because I colored it. Okay, so this all has to be done. Now, a very, very, very important point which I have to tell you, because at my center I have both ABA therapy as well as occupational therapy. So in one of the thing, there's a lot of push and pull between them, because what happens, the ABA therapy, in ABA therapy, suppose you use a reinforcer in the form of, so they have put in that this child likes sound very much, or the toys which have got sound, or the toys which have got flashy light very much, and so they will use this as a reinforcer in ABA. Whereas in OT, in sensory integration therapy, the therapist saw that once you will start showing that toy or that light, his visual stimming increases a lot. He does like this a lot once you get that light. Maybe once you get that auditory stimulus, he again starts self-talking, or you can have putting your hand like this on his ears. So because that toy incites a sensory dysregulation. So what happens is, so that ABA therapist will use that toy as a wants to use that toy as a reinforcer, whereas the sensory therapist will say, the occupational therapist will say, don't use that toy because that is precipitating my sensory concerns. So make sure that these two people are in sync. So whatever such discrepancies happen, so at Continua, we sit together, both the ABA therapist as well as the OT therapist and myself, and take care of what all the reinforcers are there, so that there is no dispute, or the child does not go back on his sensory concerns once a different type of reinforcers is used. So this is a very, very important point, because a lot of our children go for occupational therapy and ABA therapy simultaneously on the same day. Okay. So make sure that you sit with a therapist, and one should not interfere in the processing of the other. Okay. Now, after this all has happened, what is the fading aspect of it? So you're not going to give reinforcers throughout life. So once you will make a chart, and once a goal is reached, that okay, I have got this task done, so this is tick, and out of 10 I'll talk to about DTT and other stuff. So those are how we make the plans and all the stuff in the later aspect, in the later coming weeks. But for the time being, so once you make a chart that okay, I have achieved this goal, I've achieved this goal, I've achieved this goal, then this reinforcer has to fade off. Fade off means that it has to go off. So after you do maybe 2 or 3 activities which are simple, then you give that reinforcer. So previously at the start of ABA therapy, when the child was new, maybe with very small activity, with very even the slightest of the step, you have to give the reinforcer. That means very densely reinforcement was given. So every small thing and you give the reinforcer, every small thing and you give the reinforcer. But once this child starts learning, he knew that what he has to do. That means he picked up A for apple, B for ball, or apple, pomegranate, or guava. Now I have to move on. So after he recognizes all the 3 fruits in a very jumbled way. So first you will ask maybe pomegranate, and they'll put up. Second you will ask apple, and then you can reverse the sequence. You can put it apple first, then pomegranate, and then guava. So whatever, and each and every sequence the child is getting it all right. So that is the time to fade off the reinforcer. So after this all activity, maybe you can give this, and then you can go to token economy. Again, we will go talk about token economy in the next part of it in the coming sessions. So this is how slowly you have to fade the reinforcer. Okay. So once the reinforcers is faded and it becomes sometimes in the memory, once for the recollection, you can do it the same activity. At that point of time, you may give the reinforcer, you may not if you're just revising in the activity. Okay. So this is how you fade the reinforcer and the reinforcer comes out. So I think that is for today. We have talked a lot about reinforcer in ABA, and this sequence will continue later on, and we will proceed with about ABA therapy more. Okay, so now let's go to the comments and we will see off that what all the things are. I'll talk about today whatever we discussed, and if the questions are related to that. Okay. So I saw in a lot of the people are telling me that talk in Hindi. So what we are doing, we are making arrangements so that whatsoever the talk is could be translated into different languages, so it's accessible to everyone irrespective of whatever language you know or you don't know. Okay. Okay. मेघा, मैम मेरे बच्चे 2.5 इयर्स के हैं, ऑटिज्म डायग्नोस्ड हुआ है, 1.5 केजी बर्थ वेट, प्री टर्म 32 वीकर, मुझे आईयूजीआर भी था, आफ्टर बर्थ प्रोलॉन्ग जॉन्डिस था, उसको रीजन क्या हो सकता है ऑटिज्म का? क्या इतने कॉम्प्लिकेशंस की वजह से ऑटिज्म है या जेनेटिक हुआ है? Okay. So, a lot of children are born preterm. So, preterm all alone is not the only reason that you can have autism, because a lot of children are born preterm, but all of them are do not turn out to be having autism spectrum disorder. So the thing is that it is one of the criteria, but that is not the only criteria, Megha, to tell you and say, okay, all the preterm who are born 32 weeker would be like that. But a child who has got a lot of stormy neonatal course, like he was 1.5 kg, not that bad. Again, he was born 32 weeker, not that bad. Only just jaundice he had, and these are not a great lot of complications which you can just label it to have autism spectrum. Suppose you are on ventilator, you had seizures, you had hypoxia, you had bleeding in the brain. There's so many things once that happened, and also the child started walking late, there is like so much happens, then you can say, okay, maybe it could be secondary and the autism is because of the secondary features, but not in your case, Megha. That is just one of the reason, and that is not the only reason to say that my child could have autism because he was born preterm. Okay. Hi Priyanka. Is there an age limit for ABA? No. ABA is not for any age limit. Even people like us, anybody can have, because it's like a, maybe I have a very wrong behavior and I want to rectify that, and I could go for an ABA management of that. Okay. So you don't have an age limit. So ABA is not just only for autism spectrum. So ABA could help for global developmental delay. ABA could help for changing of any type of behavior, and it could be for any age. Okay. But yes, it has been studied so well in autism spectrum that we do a lot of ABA, and it is the one of the scientifically proven therapy for the use in autism spectrum disorder. Okay. डॉक्टर मोनिका, मेरी डॉटर माइल्ड ऑटिज्म डायग्नोज हुई है. स्लीपिंग का टाइम 1 और 2 सेकंड के लिए फिट्स आता है, कभी यूरिन पास होता है, तो क्या न्यूरोलॉजिस्ट साथ चेकअप करना होगा? Obviously, Dr. Monica, you have to show to a neurologist. Your child is having a seizure. This is not a platform to ask. Please take your child to the neurologist as soon as possible. Please, please. Okay. Okay. Hi, Vandana. Good evening. I'm taking online ABA session since 3 months. Her vocabulary is increased, but still not using it, only forcefully or by prompting, giving reply. One word only. So I don't know how much the problem is. I don't know what is, if you are telling me that vocabulary has increased, so that means it is working. Because it may take time. ABA is a slow thing to happen, but once it happens, it happens. It takes time. So 3 months have passed, but you yourself said that vocabulary has increased. So that means it is increasing. Have some patience, huh? Also, it's always good to have offline sessions, because then you know a lot more. If you see the therapist doing it, so try once in a while, go for offline if it's possible. I can understand that you must be doing online sessions because there must be certain restrictions, but to get a better result, obviously offline sessions are much better. Try that. But in spite of that, also on only on online sessions for 3 months, you're getting increase in the vocabulary. So that's a good sign for me. Okay. Uh, Pinkyash, thank you, Dr. Pooja. This session is important. Please give suggestions for ADHD too. So I will take a separate session, Pinkyash, for the ADHD. But I think I have one of the session. Kindly go through my sessions. You will find something. I have done sessions for ADHD also. Yes, I remember. Yes, I had definitely done management of ADHD. Please kindly look at that video. You will find answers. Maybe you will find some answers, please. Okay. Okay. I think I lost the track. फरजाना मैम, प्लीज हिंदी में बोलिए. सो हिंदी में ये आ जाएगा. हिंदी में भी वी आर ट्राइंग हार्ड. हम पूरी कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि इन सबको जो है डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सारी लैंग्वेजेस में जो है ट्रांसलेट करके डाल दें. ठीक है. ओके. Okay. What is the difference between OT and ABA? So, what's the difference between OT and ABA? It's the same difference between a physician and the surgeon. बहुत ही डिफरेंट साइंसेस हैं. पूरा बेसिस बहुत डिफरेंट है. और जो है एक इधर जाती है, एक इधर रास्ता बनाती है. सो ये बहुत ही डिफरेंट साइंसेस हैं जिनकी ट्रीटमेंट मेथोडोलॉजी बिल्कुल 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 डिफरेंट है. एंड एक जो है वो सेंसरी इंटीग्रेशन के ऊपर बेस्ड है. जो ओटी होती है वो सेंसरी इंटीग्रेशन के ऊपर बेस्ड है. और जो एबीए है वो जो है वो एबीसी पे बेस्ड है. जो मैंने सेशन शुरू किया था जिसको मैंने बोला था एबीसी की, जो है आपका एंटीसीडेंट इंसिडेंस क्या हुआ, प्लस जो है बी, उसकी वजह से ये बिहेवियर आया, और इस बिहेवियर को ठीक करने के लिए हम क्या करने वाले हैं, दैट मीन्स कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस. सो all of the three are all of the two are totally different. Okay. Amu, my husband's sister's son is autistic. 3 years. They haven't started any therapy. By watching many videos, we have understood he is regressed. He started speaking words like one, two, extra, etc. Can he improve without therapy? अमू, आई डोंट थिंक कि जो है ये इतना सब कुछ तो मैंने बोल दिया. आई हैव टोल्ड यू सो मच. So why do you want not to give therapy? What is therapy? Therapy is like, if my behavior is like that, you want to change that behavior. So you do two, three things like this. I'm not telling the child to take radioactive material. I'm not giving chemotherapy to the child. These are small, small things which are going to help the child. I mean, I don't see that this question should also be asked. I'm really feeling sorry for the child. It is not about what is the understanding of one, why we are doing all these sessions. These sessions are to create awareness. And the question like this really just blows off our spirit. फिर क्या मतलब है ये सारा कुछ सेशन करने का, अगर आप एट द एंड ऑफ द डे ये क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं, तो फिर तो इस सेशन का कुछ अस्तित्व ही नहीं है, कुछ मीनिंग ही नहीं है. Okay, let's go to the second, another question if there are any. So, my 3.5-year-old son is diagnosed with moderate autism, currently taking OT speech therapy, special education, along with brain biome cognicare. His EG was abnormal and his MRI giant cisterna magna seen. Mm, so, please help, ma'am. What can we do for abnormal EEG and giant cisterna magna? So देखिए, giant cisterna magna could be a very incidental finding on an MRI. So जो है giant cisterna magna मेरे में भी हो सकता है, किसी में भी हो सकता है. वो cause नहीं होता है autism का. That is not the cause for autism. That is just an incidental finding. Similarly, you have to find out why his EEG, पहली चीज, why his EEG was done. So we do EEG only in very, very, very specific cases. So I have a lot of video where I've told what are the indications of doing EEG. I have a whole lot of presentation like this where I've told about what is the significance of EEG, why should we do EEG, and what's the importance of abnormal EEG. Kindly go to that session, Rohit, and you will find answers to all your questions. Okay. And for cisterna magna, that could be just an incidental finding which could be found out in any of the child who go for an MRI brain. Okay. Uh, Surbhi. Oh, sorry. Hello, ma'am. Samar Malik. My son is diagnosed with autism. Considering his verbal and receptive language, he is speech delay. All physical milestones are fine. Do such thing improve with time? Again, I'm not going to answer this question. You are just asking that with time automatically my child would improve. How could you expect, if you know that he has been diagnosed with autism, Summer, and he has got a speech, it's not just speech delay is totally different and autism is totally different. If you are considering it just a speech delay, but then you have written down he has been diagnosed with autism, so if he has been diagnosed with autism, the child will improve on his own with this much quantity. But we want this much. All the children who are improving, they are improving this much. But my child is improving with age only this much. So the gap would be a huge, humongous gap, which you will see later on. Why don't you want to start anything with your child? You know, you are very poor in maths, and you not going to take any help? Are you not going to ask for help? It's something like this. Your child is asking for help, and no, I will not entertain such questions. No, that is downing my spirit also, in fact. For the treatment of autism, I have a huge lecture on the difference between speech delay and autism spectrum. Kindly, Samar, go through that session. So, Shivi Joshi, what is the difference between speech therapy and ABA? Speech therapy is a totally different science in which we help the child in the promotion of speech, whereas ABA is a totally different science with not just work for speech. Speech may only you will work for the speech part of it, whereas ABA finds out it is a comprehensive therapy in which you will also help make the child sit, you will also help make the child change his behavior, in which you will also help the child learn the things, you will increase in the cognitive part of it, the child will start speaking also, there is learning also, and also his behavior would be modified. So ABA in itself is called as a comprehensive therapy, whereas speech therapy is one of a localized or only a part of it therapy. Suppose if a child is running all around and is showing a lot of temper tantrums, you cannot do speech therapy on this child, whereas that child, if you will send to an ABA person, first, he will analyze why he is showing these temper tantrums. He will make a program to make the child sit, settle down the temper tantrum, and then help the child to speak. So, speech is not just because a child does not want to use this part. Speech is not coming because of so many factors. So again, Chevy, I have a video where there's a big difference. You will understand the difference between expressive speech delay, social communication disorder, autism spectrum disorder, and intellectual concerns leading to speech delay. So in that video, you will find out the difference between why and what has to be used for only for expressive speech delay. You can definitely send the child to school and for speech therapy, but if a child has got a lot of cognitive concerns, a child has got autism, then speech therapy is not the only answer. Speech therapy could be the answer, a small part of it, but then it is not the only answer to the child. Okay. uh Vikram, hi ma'am. We have a 5-year-old son. He is mildly autistic and we took him to therapy, stopped for 2 years. And what can we do at home to improve like behavior, like flapping and walk in on toes? So, for flapping, and you have taken therapy for much time. So you can sit with the occupational therapist and ask for, because that could be a sign for my sensory concern, hand flapping and on toe walking. So a tactile concern could be there, a behavioral concern could be there. You have to sit with the therapist, get the home plan made कि जो है मेरा बच्चा toe walking कर रहा है, please tell me how out, what's the cause for this, and how could we just settle it down. So like a lot of children do toe walking because of the sensory concerns. So what we do, I'm just telling the journal instruction, but then definitely you have to sit with the therapist. So the journal instruction include that you have to put in a mat which have got different sensations, maybe grass, maybe pebbles, maybe clay, maybe mud, and you make the child walk on different textures. You can put weighted cuffs there on his feet so that he just settles down and make him walk. So because these could be because of the tactile concerns, so that is definitely going to help your child in the toe walking aspect of it. Okay. So, hi Jayesh. Also, this question is out of context, but you said that do you do the stem cell therapy? No, we don't do stem cell therapy because stem cell therapy is still not a proven science, and it is still a no for autism spectrum disorder. Okay. So, Jayesh, no, we don't do, and neither do we promote. But yes, I have given a very diplomatic answer in my stem cell therapy because a lot of progress has been I mean, there's a lot of progress which is happening, but right now, for today, February 2022, there's an answer to that: no stem cell right now. But I don't know the future, because a lot of work has been done, a lot of progress, a lot of studies, a lot of experiments have been done, and maybe in near future it may become the treatment. But as of now, right now in 2022 February, this is not the answer. Okay, so please don't go for stem cell therapy right now, because you're just going to waste in your time, money, and energy. Okay. uh okay, so I think I have answered. Oh, Nikhil. Hello, ma'am. We are doing therapy with my son. He is 3 years old now. He is showing good progress, such as he can follow some commands by doing little support. He can make some letter, join dots, not show any problem in cloud like shouting, and don't feel uncomfortable. But there is no speech. What can we conclude? Please give your views. So, speech comes after you've started doing this. Now, this is the time to go for speech therapy, you know, because you can have verbal apraxia on that. So, please go for speech therapy. This is the time, because he started sitting, he started following commands, he started writing, his shouting has improved. That means his behavior has become better. He doesn't feel uncomfortable. So this child should be worked for speech therapy, with speech therapy. So the journal guidelines say that if the child till 4 years of age is able to follow commands, he has started following commands, following instruction, then there are very high chances that he may become verbal later on. Okay, so your child is doing well and he's 3 years old, so kindly go for speech therapy, but don't leave the other therapies. Now you can add on speech therapy, but don't leave the other therapy. Okay. Okay, so I think a lot of our questions uh, are repeated. How do we know about LKS syndrome in our child? Again, there's a lot of videos which I have made on LKS, where I've talked about EEG. Please go through that videos. Okay. Uh, then Suhasini Dasa. 3-year-old following commands and communication in few sentences and follows command. Can I send to school, ma'am? Will he come out of autism? So, if you are sending your child to school, make sure number one, it has to be an offline school. Number two, it has to be a very, very, very small setup. Send it only for an hour. Make sure that you are there in the school, because then you have to act as a therapist to help your child communicate with the other people, because it is right now he's following commands, communication has started, but only once you are there with him and helping him out. So if I'll just send the child to school, just all alone for maybe a period of 3 hours together, and if nobody is paying attention or giving 1:1, because school is a group, whereas 1:1 is 1:1. You are putting all your effort on one child single handedly, focusing on one child and helping him to promote for following of command or gaining in the attention. But once it's a group, suppose it's a group of 15 children, the teacher is saying twinkle twinkle little star. If your child is not watching her, he's not going to learn anything, and maybe with 3 hours of his own play he will deteriorate from where you have started with. He may deteriorate, because we have seen a lot of children who deteriorate after they sent to school, because then they get a lot of free time, 3 hours of free time, nobody is paying any attention, he is not paying any attention to whatever has been said or whatever has been taught or whatever has been doing, and they may land up into something really regress down with all the therapies which you have done, which all the 1:1 efforts which you have put. But if the child is ready, you are saying that he started communicating in few sentences, then The rules are go offline go school which have just offline, no online function would help him only for an hour or so. Make sure that 1 hour, if he goes to school, you are there to monitor what is happening, and you also have to monitor he does not regress, because if he is just standing there in one corner of the school or not doing anything, then there's no fun sending the child to school. Okay, so I think we have worked up, and hmm, questions have been done. So there are a few of them which I have left because I just get bogged up reading those questions, that therapy should be done or should not be done. So please, as a take home message, whatever efforts we are making to help you all, please help your children. Don't pose such question कि थेरेपी दें, रहने दें, छोड़ दें. क्यों छोड़ दें, कैसे छोड़ दें? क्यों भी छोड़िए, कैसे छोड़ सकते हैं हम अपने बच्चों को थोड़ी छोड़ देंगे, और किसके लिए छोड़ देंगे, कैसे छोड़ सकते हैं? So please, sometimes it decreases my josh also. Please don't write such things for our children. We have to work together so that we do something for our children. ठीक है, शायद परफेक्ट नहीं बना पाएंगे, शायद जो है बेस्ट नहीं बना पाएंगे, बट कुछ तो करेंगे. ऐसे बैठ के कुछ नहीं करेंगे वाला एटीट्यूड, आई विल नॉट साइन अप फॉर दैट फॉर एनीथिंग. ओके, kindly help your children for utmost you can do. Okay, thank you so much for hearing. Stay blessed. Bye, take care, have a good night. Thank you.